Hi everyone. In this video, I want to give you a new analogy to help you understand the mechanics of manifestation. I want you to imagine for a moment that the reality creation mechanism is like a piano that plays tunes by itself automatically. So at the back of the piano, it has a place where you can select which tune you want it to play. And whatever you select at the back, if you go to the front, you'll see the keys that are required to play that particular tune getting pressed, and the tune will get played. And that same tune will continue playing on and on until you go to the back and change the setting to a different tune. And this is exactly the same as how our life gets created. Knowingly or unknowingly, we're selecting a story at the higher level of ourselves, and whatever story we choose, that story will get played out and will continue to play out until the moment when we go back to the higher level and choose a different story. Now, what many people do when they want to change things, so when they want to get a different tune to play on the piano, is that they go to the front of the piano and they try to make a different tune play. They try to get the wrong keys to stop playing and they start pressing the keys of the tune that they want. But of course, what comes out is still the old tune. But even more messed up because you're now getting in the way and trying to make keys not play and pressing other keys, and it just creates a jumbled up mess. And the thing to understand is that this doesn't only apply to when you're trying to take physical action, it also applies to when you're saying affirmations or visualizing. This is exactly why some people swear by affirmations and visualizing and say that these things work really well, and then others say that they've been affirming for months and years and nothing has changed. It's because if you're trying to do this from the front of the piano, then it's not going to change the tune that's playing. And this is what many people are doing when they're affirming or visualizing. They're going, I can see that this tune is playing, but I'm going to make it stop by pressing on the keys of the tune that I want. So I can see that there are these unwanted things appearing in my life and these unwanted thoughts going through my head, but I'm just going to repeat my affirmations over and over to make a different reality appear. And it just doesn't work, because you've got that setting in the back of the piano that is still running the show and is still playing out the tune that has been set at the back, no matter how much you try to make things be different at the front of the piano. So, in order to change things, you have to go to the back of the piano. So in other words, you have to go to the higher level of yourself and see what story you're choosing there. You can use the tune that you're hearing to understand what piece of music has been set. But you can't change the tune from where the keys are being pressed down. So in other words, you can become aware of what story is running based on what you're seeing and experiencing, but you can't change things from the human level. So if you see that there's an unwanted story that is running, you can't just say affirmations or try to imagine something different to counteract that story, because it won't work. It will still be that old story that is being projected out. If you want to change things, you have to go to the level from where you're choosing the story, where you're deciding how things are, who you are, who you get to be in the world, whether things always go your way or whether things never work out for you. And if you want to change the story, you can't base it on the tune that is currently playing. If there's a tune playing of, woe is me, things have never worked out for me, I have zero options, everything is against me, I have no support, everyone always lets me down, you can't let that determine what tune plays next. You have to choose a different tune. Not because you can see anything in the old tune that confirms that you can play the new tune, but simply because you're choosing to play the new tune. And if you select the new tune, then the new tune will start playing immediately. But you have to understand that you're always selecting through your assumptions, through what you are sure is true, not through what you're trying to fool yourself into. So let's say you actually manage to select the new tune, and then it starts playing, but the first few notes actually sound really similar to the old tune. Now, if when that new tune starts playing, you hear it and you go, this is still the old tune, nothing has changed, you have immediately reselected the old tune and placed yourself right back in the story that you don't want to be in. So, in order to change things, you have to develop the ability to trust in what you're choosing over and above what the story looks like to your physical senses. It may be that the first few notes will sound very similar to the previous tune that was playing. In other words, it's very likely, with the nature of how this reality creation works, that the new story will initially still look very, very similar to the old story. You probably won't be able to see any visible changes physically at first. You just know that a new story is now playing because you know that you chose it. And so it's a case of staying true to what you know you've chosen and interpreting any physical evidence based on the new story. In other words, assuming that whatever it is that is happening must be part of the bridge leading you to your chosen outcome. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. And if you assume this, then that's what will solidify into fact. And you'll find that even the seemingly unwanted events were actually purposely placed there to take you where you wanted to go. But if you let yourself interpret the facts unfavorably, if you let yourself assume that it means that you must still be in the old story, you will prove yourself right and back into the old story you'll go. So when it comes to things like affirmations and visualizing, this is the thing to understand. If you're using them as tools to go, this is what I'm choosing. This is the story that I am now moving into. This is what's going to happen. Then they absolutely will work, because that's like going to the back of the piano and choosing a new tune. But if you're using them to go to the front of the piano and trying like mad to make the right keys get pressed down, then it will never work. And you'll be one of those many people getting all frustrated and saying, why is this not working? I've been affirming and visualizing for years and nothing is changing. So you don't want to be one of those. So don't do that. So the main thing to understand is this. It's not about what you do with your words or with your imagination or with anything. It's about where you're operating from. Are you standing at the front of the piano trying to manually control the keys? Or are you going to the back, to the level of self where the tune is selected, where you actually have creative power? You see, manifestation doesn't come from effort in any form. It doesn't come from anything at the human level. It begins with decision, with conviction, with a shift in identity, in what you assume is true about yourself and about the world. That's the real work. And it's subtle. It's not anything you're doing at this physical level, not even in your thoughts. It's beyond that. It's a knowing. It's a choice at a level beyond thought. And once you've chosen, it's a case of relaxing into the truth of what you've chosen, instead of constantly checking and fiddling with the keys, hoping to see signs before you allow yourself to believe it's working. Now let's take this a step further. Imagine again that you're at the back of the piano and you've selected a new tune, a beautiful, rich, joyful melody. But as you walk around to the front, you don't hear that joyful melody just yet. Maybe it starts slow. Maybe it begins with some dissonance. This is where most people get tripped up. They say, wait, I picked joy. Why am I still seeing conflict? I chose abundance. Why is my bank account still empty? But that's like planting a seed and then yelling at the soil for not producing fruit immediately. The new tune is playing, but you have to let it unfold. You have to listen long enough for the melody to build. And above all, you have to trust What you know you're choosing more than you're trusting your physical senses that are telling you that this is still the old story. You have to know what story you're in based on what you've chosen, not based on what the facts seem to be. When you set the destination on your GPS device, you know that you're going to that destination, not because anything that you see around you looks any different. You know that you're going to that destination because you've chosen it and entered it in. And therefore that's where the system is going to lead you towards. This is how you need to start seeing things. You need to start trusting in this part of yourself much, much more than you're trusting in physical things. Because that is how you get to utilize the full power of what's available to you. So what does it actually mean to go to the back of the piano in practical terms? It means getting quiet. It means asking yourself, what story am I living in right now? What story am I assuming is true about me and about my life? And then it means choosing. Not from fear, not from desperation, not based on the evidence, but from your creative authority. You choose based on what you desire to experience. Not what seems likely, not what seems realistic, but what your heart is calling you towards. You say to yourself, I'm not playing the story of putting up with the unwanted anymore. I'm not selecting struggle. I'm not choosing powerlessness or delay or doubt. I am now selecting the story of ease, of joy, of success, of fulfillment. Because this is what I want, and because I have this infinite power that is on my side and that is able and willing to give me everything that I want. And so I'm choosing to drop all the unwanted limitations and to align with the fullness of who I am. And then you hold that selection. You hold it the way a musician holds a rhythm, with faith that the melody is emerging, even if it's not yet fully heard. And if you notice yourself walking back to the front of the piano and trying to force the keys again, you pause, you remember. You say, wait, this isn't where the change happens, and you gently, lovingly bring yourself back to the chooser, to the back of the piano, to your higher self. And you reselect. This is the essence of living from your true power. Not forcing, not fixing, just choosing. So to wrap this up, your reality isn't determined by what you do in the physical. It's not determined by how many affirmations you say or how vividly you visualize. Your reality is shaped by what you know to be true, by the story you've selected at the higher level of you. That's where the music comes from. So if something in your life isn't playing the way you want it to, don't panic. Don't keep hammering on the keys to try to get them to play a different tune. Go within. Go to the place where you get to choose. And just choose from there. You're the composer. You're the tuner. You're the one selecting the song. So pick the one you actually want to hear. And then enjoy listening to that beautiful music play out. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.